Internet. Chris Reynolds, Senior Developer Advocate at Pantheon here, and today on the stream I'm going to be talking about how you can push changes out to a bunch of disparate sites in one place, in one sort of WordPress admin thing. And to talk about that, I've got Jacob Trust, CTO of Grade. Grade is a plugin that lets you do that thing. You can synchronize design and content changes across different sites. I like to think of it in the context of, at Pantheon, we have custom upstreams. So if you want to set the base, have a base set of code for all of your different sites, you can do that with a custom upstream. And Grade kind of solves a similar problem but for content and even design, which I know are not frequently easy problems to solve. So welcome to the stream, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm glad I can be here. I'm very excited to show a little bit of how this is solved and talk a little bit about the issues and the struggles that might appear. And yeah, just glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this topic. Why don't you take a few minutes to tell us, me, the audience, about yourself and how you came to WordPress, and also sort of what led to the development of Grade and what Grade is kind of built to solve.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm Jacob. I'm a CTO of Grade. I've been a WordPress developer for quite some time. Been starting developing with WordPress sites, been mostly starting designing WordPress sites during university. So about 10 years ago, something like that. And that was the point of time where WordPress was kind of like visually building things, was around, but was not fully fleshed as it is today, for example. Started with that, designing WordPress sites and then developing sites a lot. And then after university, I went to Grade. And we had this vision of having a standardized system where you can actually visually but also technically build your site without the need of having a lot of developers, a lot of coders in there. And we really wanted to separate content and design most of. So that was kind of one of the core bases to make it really easy for users to create sites, to build sites, but separate content and design while we go. In order to have like an asset-based approach, similar to how you can imagine it in Figma. You have components, you have some contents that are, the components are used to display the content, and then you have some, for example, design guidelines, your colors, your fonts, that essentially display these components or display them in a certain color weight, certain design. And that was the initial idea, how we build, or the base on what we build. Grade today obviously uses core WordPress as much as it can. I would say we're heavily relying on obviously the block editor. Some might call it still might call it Gutenberg, and obviously the site editor. So we heavily focus on that. Everything works in there, so you get all of compatibility with all the other tools you love around there. And then we're really thinking about what you need for a professional site, and how you can not only build one site, but how you can build hundreds of sites, and how you actually make that more efficient. And that's what we're solving.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I took a peek at it when I was first introduced to Grade a few months ago at PressConf. The use case that immediately came to my mind was higher education. Pantheon has a lot of higher ed or EDU sites on the platform. And part of the reason why part of that is because custom upstreams allow IT departments to quickly and easily spin up new sites as they are needed for new departments or programs or whatever that already have a consistent code base. So like maybe you have all your branding and your theme. Universities are super strict about things like branding and design. So you might have your theme that brings in all of those elements of the school branding, but then that also gives you sort of like an empty shell, right? And I feel like Grade kind of like takes that idea and kind of like allows you to push stuff into that shell, and then like make the ease of like setting up a new department or a new program or whatever in something like this a lot simpler.
Yeah, exactly. You phrased it perfectly right at the top. So yeah, Pantheon does it. You do a really good job at just delivering the code everywhere and simultaneously doing so. But then at the end of the day, you have people that have to maintain those sites. They have to put in some content, whether this be a page or just a post about whatever, or a person working there, whatever different types of custom content types you have at the end of the day. And you might have a lot in such a large university, for example, or a large educational system. And you want these people to be able to create this inside WordPress, to be able to have the native editor and have all the functionalities and features in there. And you don't want to worry about, okay, now if somebody, for example, updates the principal, for example, or some data type, some content type, some news article that all of the sites actually should be able to display immediately, then how do you do that? Do you have to have some code pushes or stuff like that? No, we're doing this directly inside WordPress, and you can configure it and setting it up inside WordPress, and this allows you to be really flexible. So somebody who not necessarily, it has to be a WordPress professional or somebody who's really knows what they're doing inside WordPress, they can create the content or change the design a little bit or change whatever you want them to be able to change. And then they're automatically appearing wherever you want this content type of asset to appear, essentially. And that is kind of the idea. You try to reduce complexity for the people actually working with it on a day-to-day basis, but you have a lot of complex functionality that you can set up directly in WordPress.
Awesome. Yeah, let's bring up your screen onto the stage, and then you can sort of show us how it works.
Yeah, of course. So obviously we're starting from a Pantheon dashboard here. So we have a little demo case here. So obviously this is not 100 sites, but you can scale it up to hundreds, thousands of sites. But we want to focus on some use cases today, and I want to show this a little bit. So you have these two sites. This is a base site and a demo site. So yeah, no real need to look at these. In general, a lot of our clients are working in terms of having one base or one master, one parent site, and then having a lot of different child sites that are kind of using content from that master site. It's not restricted to that. You can kind of do that on a content level. You can push one content asset from one site and the other site use that to, for example, you have one site that delivers all the news articles and one site that delivers all the design assets, for example. That's totally up to you, but in most cases we have like one base and a couple of childs essentially, and we have a really stripped down version of a university or educational site, you could say. Essentially we have two sites that are mostly the same, but they have their differences, and we're gonna take a look at the sites first. I'm gonna explain a little bit how how this end result is achieved, how this end result does look, and then we're gonna step by step go through the sections and learn like how is this built, how is this actually achieved, what could you maybe do differently, because obviously this is just one version of it, one approach to it. Yeah, there's a lot of different flexibility that you can do with it. So we have this site here, we have a little large site icon actually, we have a search that we're gonna take a look at later on, because this search can be configured to search all the sites in your network, for example. Then you have you have a menu here, not really proper content in here, but you get the idea. You have some drop down menus in here, actually a sticky nav bar. And then we have some main headlines in this hero section, and there I want to kind of pinpoint the first difference in here, because obviously you can see the spacing is already a bit different, but you can see, for example, this is the department this site is of. So we have anthropology and we have biochemistry. So already kind of dynamic, and you see the subline in here, which is different on the two instances of the site, but still the structure is the same. You see the fonts are the same, well, the colors do change. That's something you could do, you don't necessarily have to do. It's just to highlight a little bit better what visually changes when you update the design, for example. So, and to kind of highlight this independence of design and content, essentially, the separation of it. Then you have this next section. There you have some programs going on, major, minor, undergraduate. We have a lot of contact information. We're going to take a close look at how this built. We have some availability hours. We have this campus news. And already here, we do have different department information, essentially. So different opening hours, different email, for example. We do have the same programs in these two cases, but we do have different news, for example. So this from artifacts to algorithms, this is existent in both sites, but then this has another news article that is to a topic more related to that site or more relevant to that site, and this has a different one. I'm gonna take a look at that a little bit as well.
I love that feature in particular because I have memories of about 8 years ago writing a sort of content syndication plugin for a news site, and trying to figure out, and like on a multi-site, and like again trying to figure out like the best way of like allowing, like making the content available and then letting the editors decide which things they want to publish and which they don't. So I love, I'm interested in seeing how that's
Mhm.
built, and how that's managed in the admin, because I'm sure it's a lot easier and more intuitive than what I built like
Yeah, and there are
8 years ago.
different ways of approaching that as well. Like you can configure it on a global level, you can configure it on a local level. You can pretty much do whatever you want with it. But yeah, those are like really common use cases. You wanna be able to push some type of content to those 30 sites and 50 sites, but use these news articles and so on and so forth. Yeah, then we have a really simple mission statement, and then we have people working there. So this is actually the faculty spotlight in here, and obviously these are different in each department, in each faculty. So again, similar to this, but in this case, this data needs to be really local. So we see in here, okay, this entire section, the layout of it, the design of it essentially is the same, but it adjusts to the colors, it adjusts to the design guidelines of the faculty of the department, but it has localized content. So you can see, obviously, there are different people working here with different statements, and this has to be made kind of easy for the actual local department to create this, edit this, get in new people, reorder that. Those are functionalities that need to be easy for them, while still you need to be in control of what is the data type, how is this achieved, how is the layout looking, can we adjust the layout, so you need to be in control of all that. Going to take a look at that as well. And then scroll a little bit further. What we can actually see is there's some differences here. So you can now see a sports section in here appearing. So you can see Go Mountain and the Mountain University dedication to sports. You have a couple of games coming up in here, a couple of events, and this entire section is essentially missing.
Hmm.
So that's a major difference, and obviously this is just one example, but you can do that with a lot of different elements, sections. Obviously, if you design them from a global perspective, you need to be kind of in control there, but then you can let the local departments make decision about the content and about the designs. And that's something we're gonna take a look at how this is built. And
I
last but not
remember
least,
I
yeah.
remember back in the day when widgets were still a thing,
Hmm.
that there was a plugin that we used a lot called Widget Visibility,
Hmm.
which I think then ultimately eventually got pulled into like Jetpack or something.
Hmm.
But like it gave you essentially a conditional rule to show or hide widget content widget on different pages, and like if it's this page, or if the page equals this slug or whatever, you could show or hide things. And so basically what that meant was that we were essentially page building like pages using widgets for all of the things, because that was the way to bring that interface into a user context. um,
Yeah, yeah, but that's actually conditions is exactly the key word you're mentioning there. That's actually built conditionally. So based on you can whatever condition you want to set up is could be URL or something like that, or the page equals that. But in this case, you want to probably do it on, for example, a radio item, some WordPress option that somebody can easily just maintain, hide, or show the section essentially. That is how it is set up. So essentially, this logic is still valid and still the same and really easy. So in this case, we build it kind of to have a department member to easily maintain this without really being a professional or having the knowledge to how can I actually build such a section, because that is not what you want them to do. And then last but not least, we have this footer section down there. And that is pretty much the same for each for all instances, but we can talk about that as well. Natively built in Block Editor as well. Just gonna quickly take a look later on, and then yeah, that's pretty much the site. We haven't built for this demo case, haven't built that many subsites, but it's actually based on a real life use case. So
mhm.
it's actually based on a real client's use case, obviously stripped down, not recognizable, stuff like that. But this is how clients of ours are actually building these websites. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's get into the weeds. I'm curious
Yeah.
how this stuff is actually uh, yeah, how you are able to put these things together and synchronize things.
Yeah, sure. So first off, we're gonna edit the site. So this is the base. This is the base where we mainly will be building things. So I already opened up the block editor in that case. Actually, the site editor. So first off, you can see that this is a global source post, and it's actually delivered to two different sites. We have this site, and it's actually on another demo site where I just tested things. But essentially, it is sent to this linked instance, in that case, this biochemistry site, where we want to use the same post. So essentially, in this case, this is a template. So we are in the site editor. We have all our templates here, everything that we can be building. We have all our styles in here. In that, we have the block home template. So you can also build this using just a simple page and using that page as the home page. You can build it a lot of different ways. But in that case, I decided to go for the block home template because it's just the easiest version of it. And obviously, you can now go ahead and change it. You can just visually change this. You can just get rid of department and save this block home. I'm not going to save this main header for now. You can just save the block home. And obviously, if I save this now, it comes to no surprise that it's changed over here. In a minute, it will be changed on the other side. It's probably not directly changed. Yeah. And I'm going to show and explain why this is not immediately changed and how this is working behind the scenes. And we're going to actually take a look because you can actually visually see what's going on. But first off, I want to focus on this section here. So as I've explained, we have some different dynamic information already happening in here. And we want to be able, as an editor, as a designer, to visually get them in here to make it easy for them to get whatever data you want to have into your editor and into the visual building of sites. So wherever you go, you can just easily type hashtag and it pulls up whatever dynamic data is configured in your site. So obviously this is something like post title, post date, post URL. But in this case, we use the site title because the site title is in that case anthropology and biochemistry. And similar thing is happening down here where we have this site, the website subtitle that is actually used. So in that case, the website subtitle automatically will be displayed on each instance. And that obviously for different websites is a different website subtitle. So that's
Right.
replace.
So if you wanted it to be like all of your sites and for like SEO reasons or whatever to be like Mountain University as your site title and then have the department be in the subtitle, you could easily just do that by using those hashtags by saying like site title, welcome to, site title would be Mountain University, and then like you could get into the weeds with the subtitle and use the subtitle in the same sort of way.
Exactly, and this could be a post title, this could be post meta, this could be WP option, this could be a lot of different things, and we're gonna take a look real quick how this is gonna change down here. So we got just gonna refresh
before we get super deep. I mean, I'm interested. I want to get, but like, how much of this is already built? Like, how much of this is the theme, and how much is it the site editor that somebody would need to like be sort of building the template stuff out of? Just
do you mean in general this? So this question,
like for the you went back into the site editor with like the different templates that are available within the site editor. I know just from personal experience and from like people in the community, like the site editor is kind of scary. There's governance things that are concerning about like who can make changes to site editor things, and so I'm wondering how much of this stuff, how much of the design and the layout and the templates are available because the theme is giving you these things, and how much of them are like I went in as an admin and created a specific template and I shaped it to look this way, and then now I'm pushing this out to the other sites.
Yeah, so obviously in this case I'm an admin. I have the right and capability to do everything, but usually you don't want and that's why we're gonna take a look at how this is then managed. You don't want your departments to actually work in the site editor. That's not what you want to do. You want to be like as an editor, as a designer, as the admin of this site, you want to be able to control these things, but this is not something you hand over to the control of the department. And that's why pulling in dynamic data inside the template is really, really important there. So obviously this is default site editor, the types of templates you have. In this case, I use just our grade base theme. You don't have to use it. Just want something we give to you, but you can use whatever, like mostly block based themes are are best in or inside our recommendation, because then all of these dynamic features are natively used inside the block editor. So if the theme supports the block editor, obviously you have the full benefit of it. But you can use Ollie, you can use a WordPress default theme, you can use whatever theme you find visually appealing, and then this controls the design. Obviously, you can adjust the design. That's what I've showcased here a little bit, really easy inside the site editor. But all this dynamic data is what we're focusing on to get the actual people that in the site department out of the site editor into the more easier to manage parts and bits, and to actually just write posts, write pages.
Yeah.
You can pull this entirely out of the site editor, so you don't have to maintain what I'm just maintaining. Welcome to whatever. You don't have to maintain that inside the site editor. It's just the option I went for, to just showcase everything in one single template and not switching across different types of contents that much. So for this demo to be able, for this presentation to be able to just see everything at one.
Yeah, no, that's good context. Yeah. So
Yeah.
to summarize, it sounds like basically most of, or a lot of the templating type stuff that we're seeing here is done in the site editor. And then when we get in, and we'll get into, and I'm jumping ahead, get into like managing the permissions and stuff. Like the idea is that you would have somebody who knows the site editor well enough to like build these templates, and then give that to everyone who's going to then be maintaining the individual sites themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a look at exactly what your question refers to. Kind of, I hope this answers the question a little bit better then. So let's open this up. So for example, this section in here, or let's just close it down. These three items in here are built using a dynamic template in that case. That dynamic template is really just a wireframed asset. So what I can do, what I'm able to do as an editor, I'm now able to, for example, replace this image. I can easily replace it. I can adjust the text, and I can put this into a post, into a page. But what I cannot do, I cannot mess this up. I cannot remove this. Obviously, I'm an admin, so I can edit the HTML, but I cannot remove this. I cannot change the order of things. I cannot actually visually change this button. Everything is locked inside here. I can essentially only change content. And that's what this is for. So let's take a look at how this is built. This is the wireframed asset behind it. So this image box, essentially what it's called, can now be used again on the demo site as well. And now I can change the design of that image box. For example, I make it rounded, or actually just only rounded corners. No, I don't want to change that. Let's make the headline bigger, for example. Make the headline bigger, add a little bit of margin on top of it. Maybe even change order of things. Maybe you see, move this paragraph up top. And if I'm saving this now, the content which is it used with is preserved. So it doesn't change major, minor, undergraduate, program. It changes just the obviously I messed it up this badly. But yeah, you get the point. This is a way larger headline. This order doesn't make no sense, and the image width doesn't make no sense. But yeah, exactly, that's exactly how you just change the design of a thing without changing its content. So it makes it really easy, or really, really hard for the editor to mess this up, obviously. But you as a designer can kind of control how this is actually configured. So let's just, I'm not even gonna bother rechanging this. That's fine. We're gonna just live with it. And obviously the same goes if you use this template. So you can use this template like this in this example, where I can just statically insert content in here. Or you can use the same template to dynamically display posts and use it in a query loop, and then use this with, for example, the featured image, or use this again to just get the post title of it in here. Obviously this isn't in a query loop, so it doesn't really display something right now, but that's exactly how you can easily just get whatever dynamic static content in there and reuse it. Obviously this is now being changed here as well. And I'm gonna now show how this is actually being achieved. So as I updated an instance, and right now all these instances are configured to be synchronized across all my sites. That is something I set up using a cluster. So essentially this cluster tells me I want to send everything to biochemistry, and what types of contents do I want to send there. I want to send pages, posts, attachments, post types, templates, template parts, a lot of different things. We're going to take a look a little bit on that later. And now everything that is inside these conditions or fits this content condition is then automatically synced. And this happens on a scalable way as well. So what you not want to do, you want to not singularly just instantly update this asset. Obviously, in this case, we have just 2 sites. This could work. Just instantly update a template, instantly send it to a site, update it there. But if you have, think about if you have 100 or what if you have thousands of sites, this needs to be happen scalable. This needs to be scalable. So what happens there is this is a background operation happening, being set up and then called. And obviously now you can see this has been started. It sends it to the Pantheon demo site. And if I refresh it, probably is. It has been started and sent to that. And the similar goes, I just changed the block home template just a couple of minutes ago. And you see there another background operation has been run. So you can see all the posts that it actually kind of checks, because that is an interesting thing as well. And I'm getting a little bit technical here right now. This single block home template that we see being displayed here does not consist of one single object in your database. This consists of many different objects and items and files, whatever. So obviously this, for example, references this image behind it. This is a background image, and this image is a media library post. Essentially it's an attachment, and this attachment has different image sizes, so files inside your WordPress directory at the end of the day. Similar goes, for example, for this in here, background image. Then you have these sections, these horribly designed sections for right now, that actually are built using a template. And you've seen the template is a separate post, it's a wireframed asset. So this has to be kind of recognized, has to be synchronized to the site. So there's a lot of complexity going on behind the scenes, and you can see everything that is happening here. And it takes everything with it. It takes every referenced item with it, if you can figure it out, if you set it up this way, and synchronizes and checks, obviously, that asset has that asset been changed. Obviously, usually it displays it. So in that case, it only really updated that one. All the other ones were just checked, okay, modified date is the same, or does it even need to be updated? And it does nothing with it. So that's why it happens quite fast then. But it only changes the block home. But what if I included in my change a new template that before that hasn't been synchronized anywhere or is not part of the destination site? So in that case, it takes this with it and syncs it to the other site as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the curtain, essentially. And we're gonna take a look at this site for now. That's essentially how this can be described. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of posts behind the scenes going on. And now we're gonna take a look at this section that I can actually, let me just make those things. Yeah, let's save this image box for once, and we're gonna take a look at how this is actually created on the other site. So if we go into the biochemistry site, you can see the same operation happening here as well. So you can see now that this biochemistry has this image box template now being completed. Now the sync has been run. You can see the same operation coming from there being run here as well. And then we see this. Yeah, and now this is actually this Manhattan channel content. But exactly this is how this is happening. So you can see here the same goes on. You can dig into the code, dig into the operation that's done. So let's now focus on this next. Let's just refresh it because I know that I've changed the template. Yeah, now it looks good again. Let's focus on this section. So you want these types of informations to be really easily manageable. And I think this refers really well to your question that you had. So let's take a look at this. So obviously this section is statically again, and then we have 3 options in here. So this is address, phone, email. Obviously, maybe in a WordPress site, an email could be a default option, but definitely a phone. And when you come to opening hours like Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this is definitely something that is not a default option. So you want to be able to have like these kind of data types in there as well. And those shouldn't be necessarily query loops, posts or anything. They should be just accessible everywhere. So wherever I go, I just want to easily be able to insert my Monday to Friday hours. And if I insert that, then it will automatically display it. And just let's take a look at how this is actually built. So what we've done in here, we've created a couple of post types. So we create these post types to sync our different content types to the several instances. So we created news, we created faculty, we created department data. Department data is the one we're looking for. We have general information, address, phone, a lot of different things, really, really simple and broken down. And this general department data lets the actual user of this department to configure their own department data. And that is, for example, the general information. So instead of 111, I can go for 222, I can change the phone number, change the email, and that is something that even though a non-professional can easily do. I can change that to 3 p.m., I can change that to, I don't know, 8:30. And you can see this as well, display sports section. That is one thing that I've just quickly tackled beforehand. So this sports section on the biochemistry version of the site has not been displayed yet. But I've just easily created a little radio button in here and say, okay, let's display the sports section. So I can update that, and without touching anything inside the design or the content or wherever, you can see now the template is fine. You can now 222 university, we have changed the opening hours without touching any templates, anything in there. And you can actually see that this entire sports section is now displayed. And that is something that I can create from a global perspective and enable my department users to do that and easily maintain that, easily update that without the need of them knowing how a WordPress template functions.
And I can see on the side there's a user management box so that you can actually, as an administrator, say, these are the people who can manage this particular content.
Yeah, this is the easiest way to set this up, but you can go a lot deeper into user management and into roles you want to create, and then make sure these roles are capable of exactly what you want them to be able to edit. So you can even control this down to the very block you want them to be able to control or not, or to the template, or if they should be allowed to edit global content or not.
So besides even being able to synchronize the content, to synchronize the design, you also just happen to have a custom post type UI interface for like adding new custom post types.
Yeah, sure. That is one of the most important things. So obviously you can set up post types to be configured using your custom plugin, custom theme, whatever you want to go for. But usually you always need some custom content types, some custom post types, some custom type of data that in each and every professional site, and especially in these educational sites, you need, for example, news across the entire network of your faculty. And if you create news, and we just didn't really do anything special in here, and now these news, if I create a new news post, essentially, then this automatically will now show up in all of my sites. So new article. Let's just not really get any real data in there. But now if I create a new article and I'm gonna publish this, what you can see, obviously this is now being published. What you can see, oh, I haven't configured it that way. Did I? I didn't have to look at my cluster. But what I can do is I can automatically make that appear into all my sites. So for example, based on some conditions, I don't know what exactly I've set up here. Well, let's take a look. So what you can do, for example, is you can create, I haven't configured news to be updated and synchronized everywhere. So I've configured post types. What I can do, for example, is I can say, okay, from my anthropology site, I want all my news articles to be automatically global, and then I can even filter them by a tag or by a category. I don't have any category set up right now, but I can, for example, based on the category IT or based on the category healthcare, I can say, okay, if they're in healthcare, sync them out to these 30 sites. If they are in IT, sync them out to these sites. If they are in that category, I can make sure to only sync the latest 3 posts. I can filter them by date, filter them between dates. I can set some options in there. And that based on that condition, all the news posts will be automatically synced to whatever sites I configure them to.
And because I'm a nerd, when it syncs content, is it actually like pushing a new like post object into the sort of recipient site?
Yes, it has to, because at the end of the day, we want each and every site to still be working if somebody cuts the connection.
Okay.
Because let's just quickly take a look. essentially we connected these two sites. So at some point, the two sites, obviously, if you're in a multi-site, this is automatically known. You know the other sites, but in that case, we're not in a multi-site. We're having single sites connected to each other. And that way, we at least have to let them know about each other once. And this is a double-sided connection, so both of the sites know about the other site, and both of the sites have the ability to cut the connection. That's really important for us from a security perspective. And once they know about the site, then automatically they are connected. And if I create this post on the other instant, a real post object is filled in the database. It tries to use pretty much every information exactly as it is on the site, even down to the post ID. Obviously, only if it's not taken, and so on and so forth. But it needs to be a post object actually inserted into the database, because otherwise we have a similar approach for actually synchronizing content without just fetching content without like really creating the post, but then creating and localizing posts and actually having the site still working without the connection being valid is then kind of a hassle, and we still want the users of the other sites to be able to maintain certain items and certain data.
Down to the post ID is actually really interesting. I assume if it is taken, then you just like go to the next available. But that's a really
Yeah, that's
interesting
that's actually a
design
native
decision.
native parameter
Yeah.
for WordPress
Right.
WP insert post.
Right. The design decision to synchronize, like I know it's in the object, but the design decision to synchronize that is interesting, because I think that whenever I would have approached that, I would have not done that because of the possibility of post ID clashes.
Yeah, but what WordPress is actually really smart about it. So you're not using, we're not setting the ID statically. If we're setting the ID, obviously this leads to a lot of other cases, but we're trying to set it. We're trying to, okay, if this ID is not taken and available, then use it. If the ID is for some reason taken, that don't use it and use a new one.
Yeah.
But that actually makes it a lot easier. For example, what if you're accidentally deleting all your content, I don't know, for whatever reason, and you're just making a database dump or inserting a database or exporting, importing some posts from another stage, it automatically uses these same IDs. And that helps you a lot if I don't know, if you wrote some bad code that statically references exactly this ID, and it actually matches the ID again.
Yeah.
So there are some edge cases where it actually solves some headaches. Or
Yeah. No, for sure.
you're not having any headaches.
And I also like the idea that like one of the things that I say at Pantheon is when if you're like when talking about like multi-site versus custom upstreams, because for a long time custom upstreams were being presented as like an alternative or a replacement to WordPress multi-sites. And so the distinction that I make is, that shared database, like when having a shared database across all of your sites is a feature and not a bug, then use multi-site. But if you actually want to have distinct like user governance and data governance over your sites, multi-site is probably not the right solution. And so this being able to like push content, push code, push design assets across many different sites, like it feels like it fits that sort of same like logical hierarchy, right? Like you can you can keep the same data governance, but you don't need to, like, the other reason why you might do multi-site is because all the data, all the content exists somewhere, and so it makes it really easy to like go back to like blog ID 1 or whatever and pull whatever post data from that into blog ID 15, and like you it's all the shared database, so it's all there. This sort of like solves that problem and retains the data and user governance of each individual site.
Exactly. Essentially, you can create kind of a multi-site within a lot of single sites. Not really a multi-site without the downside of having the same database and a couple of other downsides when it comes to scalability. But essentially, you can use that, connect the sites, and have the same functionalities that you might want to have in a multi-site of actually using content across different sites without it being a multi-site, and you still have the governance of each and every site simultaneously. Yeah, just quickly wanna take a look at the other post types here. So this is the news post type, and just similar again, we display the featured image, we display the post title description again, just typing hashtag, getting that in there. You can actually get a lot of other. Are you not seeing that in the screen share? Yeah, that's actually the best way to see that in the screen share, because you're not seeing my default browser dropdown. No, you're not seeing all the options that are there, and as well as this post type as well. So Again, this is, for example, a good way to explain how this is used as a template. So a template doesn't necessarily have to be like this really this asset, this box, but it could be an entire section. And in that case, it is an entire section. So I can set my entire query loop and everything that I need to configure in there up in here. I can get all my dynamic data in here, but I still use the same data format. I still have full control over the design. And at the end of the day, each and every post that I'm gonna display on the actual website, so going down here, they are locally defined. And how is this done? This is a little bit different to the news post type that we've taken a look at. Yeah. Exactly. And another option as well here is you can include the individual post right from here. So when I create this post type, I have this little option interface for global content where I can say, okay, include all my posts by default when you sync it out, and when a new post is created, you can use that as well to automatically sync it out. And in that case, we have this news post type, and we have the faculty post type similarly created. And the faculty post type, again, uses like really easy meta fields in that example. You can get it a lot more complex in here. And that now can be way easier, or can be really easy for the actual user of the biochemistry site in here to create the faculty members. So this is something that everybody can maintain. Everybody can maintain a quote and a job description, and they can create their own faculty members, but you are still in full control of the entire content type, of the post type with all its meta fields. You can control whatever meta fields they're having, and then you can easily refer to the same meta fields inside this template. You can get the quote that I've created in here, controlling the design from here, because you control the data format as well. And each and every site, you are aware that each and every site uses the same data format for it, uses the same layout for it, and you can control that globally, while the local faculties can still maintain their own data essentially.
How is the sort of featured or the bigger faculty member like, how is it determined? Is it just by post order, because that one happens to be the most recent one?
Oh yeah, in that case, I haven't set anything up that actually makes the order. There's nothing that's happening in here. But what you can easily do, let's just get into how this could be, for example, changed. So if I edit this post type, I can just easily create a, I don't know, priority field, maybe something like that, and then make this a number. That's it. That's fine for now. We have this priority number field, and if I now go into I have opened a lot of these tabs. Let's close them all down. So yeah, and if I then go into I'm on the base site right now. Yeah, perfect. I'm gonna reopen the blog home site because I messed it up a little bit, and yeah, for example, now I'm gonna go into this section again, this template, and there I have set up my query loops essentially in here. And now I can, for example, make my query loops in here show, for example, I can make them sort results, sort by meta, and then just select my priority field and then make it numerical. For example, I can sort it by a date, I can sort it alphabetically. In that case, I want to sort it numerically, and then meta ascending or meta descending. Yeah, and that way I can easily just sort it by a priority field, and then it becomes way easier for the actual post type member, for the department member to create a different priority. Because usually by default, this is maintained by having the post date essentially. That's how query loops are starting it by default.
So the templates feel to me kind of like an interface for essentially building like a Gutenberg block. Like it feels like so to recap, we can synchronize content, we can synchronize design across sites. We've got a built-in post type, custom post type user interface, and an interface for basically building new blocks that you can use and then synchronize those things across sites too.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, what we're doing, obviously we have a lot of functionality within the block editor. We've seen some of them. We haven't really gotten into the design features, but that's not part of today. But essentially, you can use whatever core blocks or grade blocks you want to use. We're coming with not that many custom blocks. We want to stick as close as possible to the core. But you can use all your core blocks and build your own template, which are just assets, which are components at the end of the day. Yeah, essentially are blocks for your clients, and then they cannot really mess this up. So you can kind of build these custom assets, and that's the beautiful thing. At the end of the day, we're just synchronizing posts, and posts can be a design asset. Post can be obviously an article. Post can be a page. Post can be your header. Your footer is a post in WordPress site editor. Everything is a post. Your post can be
Which is what makes posts kind of a silly name to call them.
obviously, yeah, but in WordPress as a data type, this is a post object, and this is a post type, and even a post type is controlled by a post. If you remember, if I went to the post types, you can see those are at the end of the day, those are posts, and these posts
Post type,
are
post type.
synchronized as well. Yeah, a post of that controls the entire post type, and then even takes all the individual posts, all the nested content with it, and even a media asset. Everything at the end of the day is a post, or could be a post. Not everything is a post, obviously, but everything in terms of content and design can be a post, and you can synchronize and make decisions whether you want to synchronize the header section or not, whether you want to synchronize pages or not, whether you want to synchronize certain templates based on conditions like taxonomies, based on categories, based on date, based on number, whatever you want to base it off. And that way you are really, really flexible. It can really scale your site, and you can control all your sites from one single resource based on logic.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're getting close to the end. I feel like I could like dig into this even further. The question
there's so much I could go on for hours.
Yeah.
I haven't really touched the surface.
Right.
Of,
I feel like there's so much deeper under the iceberg. As a user, like with having this much control, and with the plugin being sort of this broadly scoped, do you have like documentation? Do you have like training kind of guidance for people who are just trying to figure out how to click all those buttons as quickly and as adeptly as you did in the demo?
Yeah. Obviously, we do. We do have an entire help center that comes with all the documentation and tutorials, and lets you walk through how can you do that. That explains that way much better in detail what I've just done on helpcenter.great.io. We're actually relaunching our documentation as we speak. So this should be in the next couple of weeks. We're relaunching a new version of it where we've taken a lot of time and really revamped the quality of that and went way harder into detail. But we do have a lot of tutorial, a lot of documentation, a lot of that already up there. Obviously, a lot of support articles that do describe certain use cases and how you can achieve that, because you can achieve really complex and custom use cases if you're really aiming for. But at the end of the day, if you're looking to build those more like really complex use cases, then just hit us up. We're always talking. We're always enjoy talking to people and figuring out what the best way to approach this, because there's a million ways to achieve kind of a similar result, and because there's so much flexibility happening in this system, and you can kind of do it the way you like it the most, and based on the data or the result you're trying to achieve, this way might be good, or that way might be good to achieve it. You already seen I had similar options to sync contents out in terms of clustering, or in terms of just directly in the post,
right,
and stuff like that.
Yeah. So my boss, director of developer relations, Steve Peirce, loves to like contextualize complex ideas with like crayons and Legos, and that's his thing, and I'm not going to do that. But I did dig through like the Pantheon archives for like a model to like just sort of contextualize what we're seeing. And like the thing is that like again, going back to like the point at the top of the live stream, the model that we have for custom upstreams is essentially the same model as Grade. Like you've got a base site, and then you've got like other sites that pull that content down. It's the same idea, and that's one of the reasons
pull and push essentially, and you can pull
right.
from one site, or you can pull from multiple sites and push. The same goes for pushing content. Yeah, yeah, we have a similar graphics as well from our site. Yeah, and obviously mostly relying on like mostly in terms of like synchronizing post content database assets and stuff like that. But you're doing that on a server level, which is a great part that we are not including because obviously we are as a WordPress plugin living there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Jacob, for coming on. For the audience, for future people watching this live stream, where can people find Grade? Where can people find you online? Are you going to be at WordCamp US? Where can people find you all?
Yeah, so in general, great. Just Google great, Greyd. So a lot of people got that wrong. No, great.io, great.io is the main domain, and that's where you can find us. Just hit us up. Me personally, obviously, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn. I am on WordPress, WordCamp US in Portland. Yeah, so I will be there. You can find us probably at most of the I would say major WordPress events. So we're usually always at WordCamp Europe. Been there as well this year. Around the German ones, you can find us. The Austrian ones as well, and then the US one and the Asia one are some of the events where you can definitely find us.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming on to the live stream. Folks at home, go check out grade.io, dig through the documentation, download the plugin, play with it, and hassle Jacob when you see him at an event. And don't actually hassle him, but
Yeah.
be nice. But yeah, no, I'm really excited, and I think that there's a really cool thing here that you guys have built.
Thank you very much for having me, Chris. It was really appreciated. Was a blast, and thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And that's it. And I'll see you all on the internet.